Now last week, folks, I was in my honeymoon in Daydream Island and the missus said, don't bring your microphones or any gear because you're not going to do any interviews. And I thought, okay, fair enough. But along came Johnny Fish and I couldn't miss out on the opportunity to chat to this legend himself, who's a huge Legends of Bevo fan. So there's no microphones, but it's a bloody good chat. I hope you enjoy it.
Welcome to Legends with Bevo. Thanks to Anytime Fitness Glenelg.
Welcome to the beautiful Daydream Island, and what a pleasure it is to be joined by the man himself, the man they call Johnny Fish. That is Johnny Gaskell. He's a marine biologist here and is one of the real famous worldwide icons when it comes to Daydream Island. Johnny, great to have you on Legends of Bevo for a chat, mate.
Thanks, Bevo.
Now, you've got a very interesting background. You actually grew up in country Victoria in Bendigo, and then you moved up to become a marine biologist. Talk to us through the journey and how you became a marine biologist of beautiful Daydream Islands.
Yeah, I used to spend a lot of time in the rivers and creeks around Bendigo, swimming around, looking at little mosquito larvae and water bugs and stuff. And I got a bit of a fascination with the underwater world, so decided to study marine and freshwater science. And then through that, realised that the marine side, there was a lot more underwater bugs and underwater beings, as you can see in the ocean. So decided to focus more on the marine. Moved away from the inland country town and to the coast down south for a while, and then up around Warrnambool, down around Warrnambool, and then moved up here in the Great Barrier Reef and never looked back.
Yeah, so you can just come up and smile on your face so I can see you.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good sign, isn't it? We've got all these little mates behind us.
It's very, very cool. And tell us more about your role as a marine biologist at Daydream Island, Johnny.
So here, I help look after the Living Reef. So this was one of the projects that I had a couple of years ago. Myself and two other marine biologists helped design this whole lagoon system so we could, I guess, expand on what the Living Reef was, which was fairly shallow lagoons. Get all of those animals that were in the shallow lagoons, dig out this big deep lagoon for them, put a big window in so people can obviously get a little bit of a side profile, which is a lot better for educating guests and schools and anyone who comes to the region, and also give them a better spot to live. So this is a new addition to the Living Reef. There's about 800,000 litres in this tank behind this acrylic window, and it's all on flow through with the natural environment. So the water is sucked from off the island and then back and distributed through the lagoon and then discharges back just by gravity. It's just gravity fed back to the ocean, and then we obviously can allow these animals to live in almost identical to the natural environment. The only difference is there's walls.
Well, that is phenomenal. And obviously back in 2017 we saw Cyclone Debbie absolutely devastate obviously Daydream Island and the Whitsundays as well. And you've been a big part of restoring the reef and creating this amazing living reef we see behind us. Johnny, tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I guess this was the first project. While the resort was shut, we thought, all right, let's really make this attraction bigger and better, and also make it better for the animals. So it's deeper, they've got more water, they can kind of swim free and have their freedoms, their 5 freedoms inside their habitat. And on top of that, we developed a coral restoration program because the Cyclone Debbie did damage a lot of the fringing reef around the islands. So what we've done is we've developed, with help from the state and federal government, we got funding to make a coral propagation system, and that's where you take coral from a healthy reef, put them into we call them raceways, coral raceways, leave them there so they can attach to some form of substrate, whether it be coral skeleton or a cement disc, and then plant them back out in the wild in areas that got damaged. So it helps restore an area. It doesn't fully restore it, but it assists with that recovery and hopefully makes it a faster recovery time. We don't want slower. We want faster. So it can take up to 15 to 20 years for a reef to recover. We want to try and shave a few years off that way, moving the coral to that area and increasing recruitment.
Well, congratulations to you and the team on the amazing job you've done, because obviously you just have to Google Cyclone Debbie back in 2017 to see all the videos and photos and the devastation in this region, and to just see what you've done now is just amazing. So well done to you and the team on that.
Awesome, thanks.
And obviously COVID's affected everyone around the world the last couple of years, Johnny. How's the effects been on Daydream Island in terms of your occupancy and that sort of thing?
Yeah, like it's obviously impacted occupancy. It hasn't impacted the fish at all. We've been fine. We obviously stayed here during the shutdown, during the lockdown. the Australia-wide lockdown, we had all of our staff, or most of our staff here at least, keeping an eye on the animals and keeping the system, up to scratch, making sure there was no issues with the life support system or with the animals. So they just kept swimming and kept eating. They were just doing their own thing. But we did shut for, I think it was about 3 months. Might have been a little bit longer than the 3 month period, 3.5 months. And we weren't able to take any guests on. And then we reopened in June, I think it was, after being shut from the end of March to June, mid-June or so. And then the guests came back. So obviously during that time, there was no guests here. And then it was a bit of a slow recovery, and ever since then, we've been seeing a lot more Australians, which is awesome. A lot more locals coming in, and a lot more Queenslanders, which we generally didn't get, above about 30% occupancy with Queenslanders. But now there was a time where we had about 90% occupancy with all Queenslanders.
Wow.
So it did change our the guests that we had and where they were from, which was interesting. It's cool.
Yeah, and like I said, obviously it's those 3 months were very sad, but good to see that you're sort of starting to get the numbers back again, and let's hope going forward that we don't have any more outbreaks and things can keep getting back to normal and stuff with you guys. So
yeah.
In terms of, obviously it's always a very hard question to answer, Johnny, but we can see so many beautiful fish and stuff around here, but what would be your favourite type of creature in the Living Reef and why?
Oh, that's a good question. I do like all of it. Look, I love coral. Coral's my area of interest. So I do love all of the corals. If I was just going to pick one, I like them all, but spaghetti coral's cool.
Yeah.
It looks like spaghetti. This one up there, the Elegance Coral it's called. It's kind of got the almost like anemone look. It's got a bright green inside. You can't really see it because the light's not on it, but it's got a really bright green zooxanthellae, it's called, inside it, which it uses to get energy from the sun, or fluorescent proteins actually, is that colour. So that's another favourite. The cod, I do love the cod as well. This one looks like Rod the cod. There's Mod somewhere, Mod the cod, and then Todd somewhere as well. I don't know where Todd is. But yeah, they're one of the favourites too. They've just got big personalities, big faces, big eyes.
Well, one of the pleasures of our trip the last week has been doing the Living Reef snorkel, which we did yesterday. One of the coolest things I've ever done before, Johnny. Tell us more about this, what people can do if they come to the island, and what they get to experience with the Living Reef snorkel.
We can jump in, so you can actually get in here. And that's a new addition to the Living Reef. Obviously, previous to the renovation, you could walk around in the lagoons and feed the baby stingrays. So what we thought we'd do is add an experience where you can snorkel in a bigger area with a lot of these animals. So you jump in, go for a swim around for about 45 minutes or so, and it's led by one of the marine biologists. And we educate you on all the different species we have in here, and this is a good representation of the animals you find around the Whitsunday Islands. So it's a good way of seeing the local inhabitants, but in a safe environment. And obviously you don't have to wait for the good weather, because it's good weather in here all the time.
And what do you think makes Daydream Island such a special island, more so than the other ones?
Ooh, that's a
tough one.
The Living Reef. Look, this is definitely the point of difference. The thing that separates us from the other islands is obviously the Living Reef. All the islands have beautiful resorts and amazing opportunities, and all the islands you can go out to Whitehaven from and go snorkeling from. But the Living Reef is the one thing that you'd come to Daydream Island for. If you're keen to see this, you have to come here.
Yeah, can certainly vouch for that after yesterday. That was unbelievable. And before we let you go, you're actually a famous author as well. You've written a book about this beautiful island, Daydream Island. Tell us more about the book and how we can get a copy.
It's only sold on the island. It's only sold on the island. It's selling very cheap. And look, it's an okay book. I don't know, a famous author, that's a bit of a stretch. But yeah, look, you can have one.
Oh,
have two if you want.
That's too kind.
But yeah, look, that was just on the inhabitants that you find around the fringing reef, around Daydream Island, just to kind of give guests, and particularly kids, plenty of photography in there, an idea and a bit of more information on the different animals around or offshore.
Beautiful.
Around the island.
And what's it called?
Beneath Daydream Island.
Beneath Daydream Island, there you go. There's a plug for
it. You've got to come in.
And what's the future of Daydream Island look like? What do you think, Johnny?
I think it's good. I think, look, the island, it's a pretty iconic island. It's been open for many, many years. Had a resort on it for many years. Obviously, the resort's all been redone, so it's a good time to come and see it. The Living Reef is the biggest and best it's ever been, so it's a good time to see that. The island looks amazing at the moment because we've just had 2 weeks of rain, and now it's sunny, so now is the best time to be here because after the rain, everything just goes so green. So it's a nice time of year. Summer, it depends what you want. If you want to see green and be hot, come in summer.
Yeah.
If you want it a bit drier, but potentially a little bit cooler, if you can't handle the heat, come in winter. It's still warm, but it's not very warm.
Well, there you have it, folks. Come on down to Daydream Island, book your holiday now. We've spent the last week here and it's been unbelievable. I don't really want to go back home, but I guess I have to go and see the dogs and the family, keep them happy. Johnny Gaskell, thanks so much for joining us.
That was awesome.
It's been a pleasure, mate, and hopefully we'll speak again in the future. Keep up the great work.
Thanks, mate.
PodBooth. Sounds so good.